start off in Van Nuys. 10 o'clock at night, we departed on our way to our first stop in Newfoundland, Goose Bay, where we stopped for fuel. That was a quick one. We didn't even get off the plane. And then off we went to the Faroe Islands, which was a place that I never really thought was going to be on my radar, but what an incredible place it was to explore there. This place is the land of 1 million sheep. As I understand it, there's more sheep there than there are people. And we had a lot of ecotourism. We visited this incredible farm that was owned by this family that they Airbnb'd, and they raised sheep and these horses that are about to go extinct, and just incredible. Sitting there eating with them, looking out towards the North Atlantic. And that was a pretty special day. So interesting thing about the Faroe Islands, the Danish government really ultimately controls the Faroe Islands. So you have this influence there. So, you know, this whole Nordic lifestyle, the way they eat and the way they exist, you really see there. You know, you see these like living roofs for insulation, and just all these sheep. There's a NATO base there. You know, this was also an important place that was relevant during World War II. And so some interesting things. We had some fun stories. If you recall the story about the prison and how low-key they are, letting the prisoners out to work and then forgetting about them and locking them out of the prison, and then they just hang out. Nobody's going anywhere. Beyond that, we were out seeing millions of waterfalls and getting out on the water, and it was a real active journey, which was really fun. It's something we needed to get over the jet lag, and the way that Constance playing this, it was perfect. We got to get some exercise, get out, see some stuff, and get ready for what was yet to come on the rest of the journey. And this was an incredible way to start and get to know everybody a little bit before we kept heading east. So one of the adventures that was pretty cool, we chartered this little boat and went and got out on the water. And it was really neat to just explore all these little caves in the water and to see these little towns that we could see from the water, and really just get a sense of what the Faroe Islands are all about. And there's many islands connected with tunnels, not bridges, which was also really wild. So when we'd go from one part to the other, we're underneath the water, which is a whole nother story in itself, but they have massive pumps just pull water out. But incredible place the Faroe Islands were. So we departed the Faroe Islands on our way to Munich. Flew direct to Munich. Once we got across the Atlantic, a lot of the lakes were a lot shorter. So that was, if I recall, maybe just a couple-hour flight. And we arrived into Munich and then drove up into the Bavarian Alps. Amazing drive, a little bit on the Autobahn, pouring rain on the way up there. And we showed up to just this incredible property where we stayed with great food. Normally the Germans aren't known for having great food, but this place was sure incredible. But what a neat place, more camaraderie, a lot of good food, hiking, biking, the spas were amazing, the views of the Alps, the visits to Garmisch, visiting the town of Garmisch, and just really being up in these Bavarian Alps was a bit story like The Sound of Music with some of these places. So after a few days in the Alps, drove back to Munich, hopped in the plane, and off we went to Egypt. And here we are on our way over to Luxor, where we are going to spend a few days exploring the Valley of the Kings and some of the ancient temples from the Egyptians. And what a neat place that was. Not another place that I never thought I would have a ton of interest in until I got there. And when you see the history, it's just an incredible place. And you really see how this really has become such an influence on modern culture everywhere. Some of the words we learned and the connectivity between that and various religions was interesting. Going to Valley of the Kings, seeing the tombs, it was incredible being able to do that at night, which was really fun without the crowds. Something that I think not a lot of people get to experience, and that was really neat. Yeah, just so much history here and stuff you read about in books. We studied in school, but never did I ever think I was gonna go touch and see some of these things. Well, you go into these tombs, and you know they're dug out of the ground, which is crazy, and some of them are really deep. And then depending upon how much time they have to dig these things, I think depends upon how deep they are. But when you think about how these were sealed off and dark, there was no light for thousands of years on these places, and then they're discovered. And now here we are going in, and the color that you see. And just the craftsmanship, and you just think about the sheer number of people involved in creating these things was just mind-blowing. And and on the surface there's just rocks everywhere. It's dirt and rocks, and obviously this place has not been inhabited in a very long time, but quite interesting when you think about what's underneath the ground. And as we're told, there's more to be found. They're still actively looking for tomb sites, and maybe in my lifetime we'll see some more. This cruise down the Nile was really fun. I mean, how do you go to Egypt and not do this? And so to be able to get out and mix with the locals and listen to their music and have some of their food and get to see Egypt and Luxor from the water was pretty cool. Off we left Luxor on our way to Nairobi, Kenya, where we started the next part of the adventure. So some logistics with that, you know, it was pretty amazing to fly into Nairobi, hop in the Cessna Caravan, take that out to the dirt strip out at the lodge, and then to be picked up by the Maasai who worked there, welcomed us, take us to the lodge where we had the most incredible experience going out into the Masai Mara and seeing all of these crazy animals that people normally see in zoos, and we're fortunate enough to see them in their own habitat. Cotter's 1920 is the name of the lodge where we stayed, and as I understand it, it's the longest continuous running safari outfitter in Africa. No way, this is cool. And a family from Oklahoma, from the U.S. of all places, is who started it. So we stayed there, welcomed by the locals. The Maasai tribesmen were our guides. The families work for this place and take us out and make sure we stay safe. Got chased by some elephants. That was pretty funny. Not something I was expecting. He's kind of walking a little faster. You have a good memory, I bet. Were you trying to eat me earlier? We got to see a lot of lion cubs. You know, this time we were sitting there just stalking these lion cubs for hours trying to see them, and the mom finally had enough of us and she pushed them out into the open so we could see them. Being within feet of these giant lions sleeping was pretty cool. There are people dumb enough to try to touch them. We didn't. We just hung out with them. And then we're able to get out and see all these animals in the Great Migration. I mean, the zebras, the lions.
Now,
do you call a baby zebra a foal?
oh, you're so cute.
Oh, y'all are super cute.
We also targeted
giraffes, water buffalo, Cape buffalo, cheetahs. I mean, the list just goes on and on. Ostriches and ostrich eggs. That was pretty crazy to see in itself. But just such vast land, and being able to share in that with the locals there was pretty cool.
That's it from doing the map. All of this map. Right now, the first that we started, we don't start to. It's really, never.
Talk about that. So what's going on here?
Every day we would have lunch out when we're out. They'd set up these incredible lunches for us out in the bush. They always packed plenty of gin. We had lots of gin and tonics, which was pretty cool. And they always found some nice shade for us, nice tree to hang out under, a sunset to watch with the most epic views. The locals actually work for these safari outfitters, and this is a Maasai tribe welcoming us into their home. And so we went and visited this local village. They brought us in, welcomed us with their local garb. We're wearing these clothes and blankets and things they make, and they were so happy to see us. And these people grow up and they go work for these outfitters, which is really neat to see how they connect with the locals and give back and try to keep this going and keep their culture intact. Hello. So here we are meeting the kids. We play a little soccer with them, and got to go into their homes. They showed us around. We bought some stuff to bring home, so we all have some knickknacks from that trip. Sopa. No, sopa. Bye. The tents, which are, it's a loose term, these safari tents are very well outfitted and very nice, and sleeping there, listening to the wild animals at night was, that first night was a little sketchy for me. I remember leaving all my tent flaps up so I could see out. It's dark and you can hear them eating, you can hear them walking, and I was surprised the next morning when I woke up and there was a bunch of zebras out around my tent. But a neat experience and not something that I ever thought I'd get to see, so I was glad to share it with all of you. So from Kenya, we took the plane back to Nairobi and hopped in the plane, and off we went to the Maldives. On our way to the Maldives, this pretty much marked the halfway point of our trip. And we land in the Maldives, where we get through customs, and get moved over to a boat where they take all of our bags and things, and off we go to this little atoll. The resort that we stayed at, the Barrows, Maldives, was incredible. The overwater huts were something special. I'd never stayed in an overwater bungalow, and something I'd always wanted to do. So to be able to go and experience that was amazing. The facilities at the hotel were amazing. Just sitting in the pool, watching these sunsets, and just relaxing. The water was so clear. The wildlife was so interesting. Snorkeling was great. We got to swim with some reef sharks. Some got to go diving. Unfortunately, I had swimmer's ear, and that was super painful, so I had to keep it shallow, but the snorkeling was great, and it was fun to swim with those reef sharks and see the wildlife. From what I understand, the water was not as clear as it typically is, but it was clear enough, and we got to see a lot of neat things. It was definitely a trip that I needed, and so to be able to sit here and reflect on it now is pretty awesome. All right, on the way out of the Maldives, we're on our way to Sri Lanka, which little island off the coast of India, and went and explored the tea trails, the Ceylon tea trails. We were fortunate enough to show up there, hop on a floatplane, save us a bunch of time driving, and end up on this lake surrounded by all of the tea plantations. Wonderful, you? This is beautiful. Thank you. These incredible bungalows and homes that we're welcomed into where we stayed, where the food was just first rate and the service was amazing. We learned to do a little bit of local cooking, had a little bit of fun with that. Lots of hiking, drank a lot of tea, learned a lot about tea. So we explored a tea plantation and the whole tea processing, where we learned about how they pick it, how they process it, and the various types of teas, which was pretty interesting. You know, people are drinking tea all over the world, and you know, a lot of the stuff comes from here. This was at one point under British control, and was where a lot of that tea came from. After a few days of exploring Sri Lanka, on our way back to the airport, where we'll hop back in the airplane and we'll start making our way from Sri Lanka onto Singapore. Singapore was just a planned stop for us for one night. There's a service facility there for the airplane in case we needed it. Pretty uneventful. Some of us got a little more time in Singapore than others, unfortunately, with the vaccine requirements in place. But we're lucky enough to stay at an amazing place at Raffles. Had a great dinner, spent some time with some friends and had some laughs, and got out of there just before the Formula One event started for the weekend. So the next day, off we go to Borneo. We departed in the morning from Singapore and made our way, a fairly short flight over to Borneo. But once we landed, we had about a 4.5 hour drive into the middle of this rainforest that is, I think they said, about 150 million years old. It's incredible what they're doing, trying to preserve these rainforests. There's so much deforestation that's happening in this part of the world, from palm plantations and losing habitat for a lot of these animals. Okay, so let me do a little walkthrough of the room. This place is insane. It's so cool. Just listen. Do you hear that? It's like I'm in the literal jungle. This place where we stayed, they really focus on ecotourism. The facilities were amazing. Like having that plunge pool off my room and listening to the wildlife at night. It was so loud, but you just hear these animals and these insects, and just the noise of the jungle is crazy. And walking around, seeing the monkeys, the orangutans, the leeches. I think we all got leech certificates. Everybody got eaten at some point by a leech or two. But the hiking, the exploring, and the wildlife, all wrapped up in this rainforest, was something to be seen, and a part of the trip I'll never forget. So amongst all the activities we did, they arranged a night hike for us, which was pretty wild to see all these animals that come out at night. Snakes and bugs and all kinds of stuff that likes to eat us, the leeches. So after we spent several days hiking around the jungle, I think all of us were ready for a little bit of a rest. One of our longer legs out of Borneo, flying to Japan, to Sapporo, which is in the northern part of Japan. We landed there and got off to our resort, which was a very typical Japanese tourist area for Japanese, not foreigners. So we were definitely the only Americans, non-Japanese there.
Go this way and we can
We wandered around, explored the town, took some boat rides. Unfortunately, all the banks, financial institutions closed. We needed cash. Nobody had any Japanese money. Fortunately, we found a nice couple that exchanged some dollars for us.
and we're able to have a little bit of walking around money. People didn't like taking credit cards for food, but they sure did for goods, of which covered some shopping, Constance, and I think all of us got some nice things that we can bring back as memories of the trip. The food for me was good, but I will say I think I would have preferred to have some more Wagyu and maybe just some Toro or some tuna. Some of this other stuff was maybe not for me, but pretty fun nonetheless. The Japanese definitely are very much like the Germans. No is just ingrained into their culture. But I think we made it through, had a neat experience, and stayed at an amazing hotel. And that starts to put a wrap on the trip. From here, it's Alaska for fuel, then into Anchorage, get some fuel, some pizzas, clear customs, and then back to Van Nuys. Well, a lot to unpack, both figuratively and literally, from this trip, but pretty incredible to take off, head east, keep going east, and you eventually make your way back home. So for the non-believers, I can say the earth is round. It definitely is. Otherwise, we would have not ended up where we ended up. But great journey, fun group of people. Got to know some people that I didn't know, and I'm grateful for that. And on to the next one. We look forward to doing it again.